There is something in human nature that wants to bring you back to your center. Just as there is something in the ocean that goes up and down, it needs to come back to the center. So all art has to come back to that, and anybody who thinks, well, he's got a bright idea and he wants to change it, will be doing something that is unnatural and against his own nature. So anytime you want to create art, first of all, try to get an idea of who you are and what you are. Everything needs to come back to a center. I don't know much about painting. I've done a little bit, and this is where what I meant when I said I may be speaking garbage. I don't know, but I think that inasmuch as God is center everywhere, circumference nowhere, it seems to me that everything must begin at its center, and therefore I suspect that everything in art also has sort of a center of gravity, and whether it's in the center of the painting or not, it's got to have that focus. Again and again I found that when I needed to do something, I didn't need to know the art of it. I needed to tune into it. The spine is the center. Everything begins at that center. You have the Ira and the Pingala. When you inhale, the breath comes up and the energy comes up through Ira on the left side of the spine. When you exhale, breath goes down in Pingala. And this is a universal experience that when you feel happy, you tend to inhale because the energy is coming up toward your head. That's a natural movement for it. And so you see something beautiful. Isn't it so? You don't find people saying, unless they don't like it. And you never find people sighing and saying, oh, I'm so happy. And there are directions also, and it's universal. When you feel good, there's an upward movement. And you tend to look up, you tend to smile, you tend to... you use expressions like I feel uplifted, I feel high, I feel exalted, or I feel low, I feel depressed, I feel downcast. These are universal things, and these must be taken into account when you create art. And what have you got inside yourself? You've got tendencies of a mixed sort. You've got tendencies that want to rise and tendencies that want to sink. And art should help in that direction. It should help you to rise and not push you down. And so anything that you do that brings you towards Satchidananda or bliss is going to be something that lifts your ego into higher awareness, which comes from raising the energy up the spine, not from lowering it, which comes from expanding your consciousness to include the consciousness of others. Therefore, art that is unkind, art that is brutal, art that is insensitive, can be good art, but it can be very unspiritual art. Spiritually, it can be a disease. And I think most art today needs to be called a disease because it's an infectious disease. You listen to it, and it takes your mind away from what you yourself want. So I say if you have any works of paintings, for example, on your walls that are very well done, but that don't express something that lifts you, burn them. Or sell them if you like, but I'd say burn them. The thing that we need to do is look for that art that is, if it's true, will be kind. Art, there's a beautiful thing in the life of Leonardo da Vinci. He enjoyed painting even ugly people. And you might think, well, that was terrible, but he saw beauty in that. He saw that in that ugliness there is still that divine. If you have the vision of bliss, if you have joy in your heart, you don't look at the outward form. You look at the heart. When you see people, worldly people, you can see in their eyes, they're sort of blobs of meat. One thing beautiful about people when they come onto the spiritual path is that their eyes become more beautiful, their voices become sweeter. I was saying to Sri Karthikayan last evening, our singers have never been professional singers, but by practicing meditation, practicing yoga, their voices become sweet. And one of the wonderful things that we've experienced here is that people will come for the first time and you can see in their eyes, in their faces, all the tensions of the world and the worries and so on. And after just a few days, they become completely different. When you relax more, you become happier. The more you can relax into yourself, the more you find that you have what you want. Well, art should express what you want. Art should express bliss. Art should express joy and expansion and kindness, not because it's a matter of taste, but because art should reflect back to us what we want to be. Art should not make us more confused. It's easy to confuse people, but it should help to give us solutions. And that solution can only come. You can't say, so the solution is to paint upwards, right? You'll make a mess of it. You've got to have that consciousness. And when it comes, it just is amazing how naturally it comes. You don't have to work for it. When I wrote chords, I didn't know chords, but I knew that it had to be that. And Mozart could come and tell me, I don't think that chord is right. And I would have to say that it's right for what I'm trying to say. There's not a single note that I've ever written has not been written with my full sincerity. I don't know the rules. I know that it works, and I know that it lifts my consciousness. And a gratifying thing for me is that many other people know it too. That's happened to me so many times. I don't write these things. I never sit down and say, well, let's see what kind of melody I want. I wanted to do this. Never. I have the consciousness. I think, what do I want to express? And when I have a clear mind, clearly in mind what consciousness I want to express, God gives me the melody. There's no work involved. Often it just comes like that. You don't have to work over things in art, perhaps more than anything else, but any real discovery, and I think anything that you do that's inspiring, at least to you, is a real discovery. It will come naturally. It will flow, as it were, but where from? We have 3 levels of consciousness. We have a subconscious, a conscious, and a superconscious. What we need to do is ask upward, and the answers come down from that superconscious. Subconscious things, stream of consciousness, writing and so on, which is to me absolute bilge. It doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't say anything, it doesn't do anything. Subconsciousness, you don't get answers from the subconscious. You get them from your superconscious. When you tune in and ask this is the center of superconsciousness, but the heart has to be involved also. And when the heart's energy is turned upward, and then you ask here and receive here in the heart, you find that answers come to all sorts of problems. I remember one time Master came into his interview room. He was going to be talking with a group of us, and he'd just been cooking. He was a very good cook, but he cooked intuitively. He said, I never taste it. I just put my mind here and I can taste it here. And he was very blissful. I think there was more involved, but I don't know what. He wouldn't talk about it. He didn't talk about his experiences. Still, part of that bliss was that he had got the taste right. It was everything you do can be an art. Why is it that Mother's cooking is always special? Because she cooks with love. In communities like this, we can set an example, and are setting an example, that is bringing people from all over the world, because they say it's possible to live in harmony. What a wonderful way to live. I know that this community is already sharing the possibility of living happily and kindly with other people in the world. And I believe that this, more than anything else, is what can change the world. Politics won't do it. Wars won't do it. Governmental reforms won't do it. But people, if they can set an example and not just talk about things, then other people can decide whether they like it or not. And everybody wants Satchidananda because we're made from that. And so everybody is going to say, well, I want to be that way myself. How much nicer it is to be happy than to be unhappy. Some people hug their unhappiness to them, but there is something inside them that makes everybody long for that which sooner or later every one of us has to become. What Buddha became, what Krishna became, what Jesus Christ became, what Yogananda became, every one of us has to be like that. We are the same as they. We just haven't learned all the tricks yet. Haven't worked it all out yet. We're still asleep. We have to wake up. But there's no difference between you and the highest that ever was, because you can't get higher than God, and your goal is to become one with God. And do you know how old you are? As old as God. Which is to say you don't have any age at all. It's such an amazing thing to think that after all the countless incarnations, when you get out of it, you don't think about it. It just seems so, at the end of a new movie where everything is going wrong and finally it comes right and you say, what a great story. I learned so much. That's how it is, only millions and millions of times more when you get out of Maya. So art, if it is to fulfill a divine mission, and everything on earth is a divine mission if people understand it, then it should be that which will help you to uplift your consciousness through color, through form, through melody, through harmony, through rhythm. All these things can be uplifting or degrading. Which do you choose? You must always ask, who am I? And does it express this? And you'll be able to understand what good art is and bad art. Technique, well, that's secondary. But the consciousness behind it, will it help you, help to make you wiser and calmer? Or will it make you agitated? Television today will hold a scene maybe 2 seconds, 1 second. That's because people's minds are so agitated. And so you want to be realistic and give them agitated art? Well, do it. They might even buy it. But it won't help the world, and it won't help you, and it won't help those people. Try to let your art be not just a manifestation of consciousness, it'll be that whether you want it to or not, be an expression, a conscious expression of consciousness. There's only one way out, and music should point us in that direction, art should point us in that direction.